Brokers Alliance and the National Insurance Clearinghouse present the Business Insurance Zone, a Bravo video event. Broadcasting in HD 1080p on Vimeo, YouTube, the Insurance Newsnet, Agent Navigator, brokersalliance.com, and on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the Insurance Forum. And now your host, the whiz of the biz, Steve Savant. Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that spotlights insurance in your practice, keeps you up to speed on insurance news and products, features insurance strategies from top advisors. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone. Our email address is thebiz@brokersalliance.com, and you can call us at 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, for any of your quotes or questions on life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, and group pension plans. And you can also write us coming soon on medical plans. I can't believe we're getting into this whole thing. Medical plans as well. And remember, I'm not a tax or legal advisor, so before moving forward with anything in our show that we talk about, always check in with your CPA and your tax attorney. And if you're FINRA licensed, you're dealing with a broker-dealer, always touch base with your compliance officer before moving forward. Well, today we're talking with Tom Anderson, Director of Sales and Training for AG Life and Companies. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you, Steve.
And I've had him a couple times before, and we were talking about, in a couple shows, we talked about referrals, we talked about sales training as it relates to prospecting, we talk about the process of the interview. Today we're going to talk about it because we are the Business Insurance Zone. So when we talk about life insurance, when we're talking about disability, long-term care, I mean, some of these areas actually require underwriting, a medical underwriting. We have to actually qualify for it from a medical point of view. So one of the toughest areas of interviewing for most of our agents is because they're not doctors. They're not nurses. Us who have been around the game, we've picked up the nomenclature. We're hip to the medical language, but I don't know if we're really skilled in how to talk to a client about underwriting, and especially if they got an issue. You know, because it's kind of sensitive, right?
Very.
And we have to be very careful. So today we're going to talk about the process of talking about underwriting as a prospecting issue when we're in the interview, right? So talk a little bit about, because I've been in this thing a long time. I've seen a lot of blood and urine exams, EKGs, x-rays. I mean, I've seen my fill, and I've talked about people's personal lives, including their interworkings of their plumbing, and these are really sensitive issues.
They are.
So talk a little bit about why is it so important to pre-sell, pre-qualify a client walking through this gauntlet of underwriting?
Well, Steve, there's two reasons. First of all, as a salesperson, the very fact that we're selling life insurance that requires underwriting means that this is the part of the business that we have to get right, because we don't get paid otherwise. We don't get paid if that policy isn't placed. And secondly, from a sales point of view, if you think about it, you might remember Woody Hayes when he was coach at Ohio State. He didn't really like the forward pass in football. And remember what he said? 3 things can happen when you throw the football. 2 of them are bad. Well, 3 things happen when we submit a life insurance application. It's approved as issued as applied for, which is great. We told the client we can do that. Secondly, it could come back rated, which means now oftentimes we have to help resell it. And the third option, of course, is that the client's declined. And in each of those cases, we're not going to get paid until that policy is placed. So that's from the agent's point of view. Also, from the company's point of view, they have the term we are really what we call field underwriters. They expect us to be the eyes and ears of the company at the point of sale.
That is such a forgotten title.
Absolutely.
We're an agent, we're a producer, we're an investment advisor, but really, fundamentally, when I came into the business, we were field underwriters.
Yes.
I mean, think about that. We were kind of like para-doctors, you know,
yes.
in a terrible way to say
yes.
that. No negative dispersion on physicians, of course, putting us at the same level.
Oh, no. But so if you think of yourself as the eyes and ears of the company, in fact, the underwriters depend to a great extent on what we tell them and how we present the case. So that's what I wanted to do in putting this together. And I think from an agent's point of view, there's 3 parts to the field underwriting process. First of all, before you go out on the call, be prepared. Know your different carriers' underwriting requirements. Different companies have different definitions of standard, preferred.
Right. And we have all this, so we can give you all
yes.
that. Right.
Once again, kind of as a sidebar, I wanted to put these together as tools for each of you to use, things you can use that are practical and helpful. because I've been in the position many times of bringing an application back, and you don't ever want to have to go back to the client and ask, well, gee, you didn't sign this form, you didn't sign the state form, the HIV form. It's very embarrassing. You may not be able to see the client again. So there's a lot of reasons to be prepared before you go out on the call. One of those steps would be to, and I built a checklist, which is part of the kit that we'll be happy to send you. A lot of companies and your IMO may have those for you. In the old days, we used to actually have shrink wrap packs where all the forms, whether you needed all of them or not, would be shrink wrapped in a package. But today, oftentimes they're all downloadable. You have to, before you go out on the call, download the PDF forms before you go out there. So I think it's important to understand the different forms you need to take, whether you use them all, and have them with you when you go out there prior to writing the app. The second phase, of course, is that point of sale, and this is where you want to be observant and be able to recognize situations or signals that could create an issue or raise one. For instance, if I'm visiting Steve at his home and I see a prescription pill bottle on the credenza behind where we're sitting talking, you know, if you don't bring it up, I really should, you know, and ask you, well, what is that about? Because that could
hopefully that's a legal prescription.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want it to come back and have the underwriter say, hey, Tom, didn't you realize that he was taking Lipitor or something like that? So being observant is another point.
Is that what that was?
Yeah. So, and as Steve pointed out in the introduction, you know, over time we become pretty knowledgeable about a lot of the things the underwriters look for in terms of evaluating a case.
Right.
Because if you think about it, what we're helping them do is assess risk. We want to make the sale, but the insurance company's thinking, well, do we want to accept this risk? You know, and hopefully at the premium that I quoted the client, because that's really how it works. Premium is based on how.
You know, how can I really quote this if I haven't even done this checklist yet then? If I haven't even went through the Part 2 medical, how can I be giving quotes out? You know, just on the basis of my client says, hey, I'm in pretty good shape, whatever, right?
Well, as you know, we often go out there with the illustrations, and of course the client's going to want to know, at least within some boundaries, you know, how much is this going to cost me before they'll sign the application. So
with the technology today, and most people having some computer at home,
you
can pretty much, once you go through this, say, well, let's go out to the web and see. I mean, there's so many grids, or we support a huge, Brokers Alliance, we have a huge grid on term, guaranteed UL, indexed UL, survivorship, whole life. We have a lot of grids out there that can actually quantify that once I know where I'm playing.
Exactly. And again, to help someone at a point of sale situation, a conversation, you might want to say something like this to your client. Well, you know, Steve, you look pretty healthy. Is there anything that you're aware of or I should know about? Because as you know, that's what we're really doing. The price is going to be based on the risk. So, you know, up front, most people have an idea by now, you know, what their situation is. So that's the second part at the point of sale, is to be really observant, ask questions. The other thing is when you are filling out those Part Bs, you know, put all the details in there. If all the different providers that you know you might have as physicians, different people like that, you want to do that because at some point it's going to be asked. Steve is going to be asked about it, you know, and also you want to prepare your client for the PHI, that personal history interview. I found a lot of producers don't do that. They don't tell them that someone else is going to call them. And so now I get this phone call from, well, wait a minute, I gave my agent all that information. Why are you calling me? And then that's because you never really told them what was going to happen. So at point of sale, you really want to be sure you really make it clear the things that are going to happen for the client. And the last part, which I think is equally important, and a lot of folks miss this part, is the post-sale. There are a lot of forms and great techniques. I would send Steve a letter thanking him for the application and explaining what's going to happen over the next maybe couple of months, that we are going to access doctor records. You may get a phone call to verify the information you gave us on the application, but also help manage your expectations. Here's what's going to happen, and here's how much time we think it'll take to process the application. Several months could go by. If he's a very busy person, he's going to be traveling. A lot of other things are going to be going on, and then he may not hear from you for quite a long time. So that's very important too, is to work with your client after you take the application.
I think one of the things, because we're so brokerage mentality, especially on our side of it as a wholesaler, that everybody hasn't been very schooled on the applications, send me that one, because we're saying, well, you've already told me a little bit about the client. I think this carrier will be more benevolent in their underwriting process. And they don't know the app. They don't know the questions that are coming. Maybe that's one thing that we have to kind of school.
Yes.
We have to kind of read the app before we get in there. The other thing is, too, is the quotes. With everything that's going on, we have term quoters that are now downloadable on your cell. So you can just quote it. You say, well, wait, let me go through here. Based on what you've told me on your Part 2 medical, told me a little bit about what your pharmacy, what your scripts are.
Right.
Here's what I think it is. And some carriers now are even supporting the interview. You could actually call them. They have a lot of people, here's what we need, so forth and so on.
Yes.
And you can kind of do that. Now, but this is where, even though we're really not talking about underwriting today. We're talking about the sales process.
Correct.
So I don't want to get off on blood and urine. It's mostly, it's not about that. It's about a process. I looked at your pre-sale guidelines. This is another thing. It's all out on the web. Not only our site carries it all, and each carrier has their own website that carries it. But you need to know your guidelines going in, because, for example, we just had a client. He was rather heavy. We called him vertically challenged, and we knew right away a certain carrier was very good on build.
Yes.
And so we went in with that quote, even though it wasn't the best quote, because we knew the other carriers' quotes look better, but by the time we get through underwriting, those numbers aren't going to stay the same. So we had a better shot. We kind of have to know your carrier, know what possibilities you have. And we have to know a little bit about human physiology. And actually, we should do an underwriting class just on that issue.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that would be huge just for a wake-up call. Now, when we come back on this second segment, I really want to manage the form checklist tool that you have. And of course, we're going to be able to give this to you all free, of course. Get it out. It's one of our giveaways of the show. And remember, you can always write us for that or any information at the email, thebiz@brokersalliance.com. Call us direct if you want to just call us, 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, or hop out on our website at www.brokersalliance.com. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. We'll be right back with more from Tom right after this commercial break.
Steve Savant here. For years, I've heard that less than 2% of all term life insurance ends in a claim. That's not many, and clients had to die to receive the benefits. That's the old term insurance. Now start selling the new term insurance. The term insurance that covers your client through a chronic illness, a catastrophic event, or a terminal diagnosis, and pays their monthly premium during extended periods of unemployment. What term life insurance can do all that? Western Reserve Alliance Advantage Term with living benefits. No other term insurance product bundles so many solutions to life's unexpected problems. And all in one policy. So for more information, call Brokers Alliance 1-800-290-7226. Stop selling the old term. Start selling the new.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. I'm Steve Savant, your host, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. We're talking with Tom Anderson from AG Life Companies on underwriting as part of the sales process. That's bizarre. And we need to talk about it because we're not talking about underwriting today. We're just talking about it as a part of the sales process. And remember, you can watch this segment and all our shows on Vimeo, YouTube, the Insurance Newsnet, Agent Navigator, and of course our on-demand section in Brokers Alliance on all our videos. And of course, always check us out on Facebook, Twitter, the Insurance Forum, and of course, LinkedIn, our corporate website for social media. Our web address for everyone to write any of these questions, some of the things we're going to talk about today, you can request at thebiz@brokersalliance.com, or you can call 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, for any quotes or questions you have on life insurance, DI, LTC, annuities, or group pension plans. And remember, I'm not a tax or legal advisor, so before moving forward with any of the plans that we talk about today, always touch base with your CPA and attorney. And if you're FINRA licensed and you're working with a broker-dealer, always check in with your compliance officer. Although, when we talk about compliance, This could be part of the sales process that actually has a little touch on compliance, because we have to be careful. Remember, if you're a field underwriter, like we said in the first segment, you're really supposed to be on behalf of the company, making sure that you actually disclose everything. Because remember, last time I heard, they don't pay death claims on fraud.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why they call us agents, because the definition is you are an agent, you are representing the company. Absolutely.
Well, the guy says, well, no, I'm representing the client. Well, yes, but now that you're in the insurance zone, you're supposed to give full disclosure and say and caveat. And by the way, we found out in underwriting, with all information the way it is today, MIB reports, all the APS reporting agencies, they're going to find it out.
Exactly.
So listen, they call it errors and omissions, right? It's not so much what I say that gets our agents in trouble, it's what you left out.
Exactly.
So let's talk about you were talking about form checklist tool, and of course, we all know this, but we don't do it. That's what I don't get it.
Exactly. Well, once again, being prepared, from a sales standpoint, you never want to have to, at all possible costs, have to go back to the client and ask for more information, a signature or something. It just looks very unprofessional. And it holds up the sales process, holds up you getting paid. But not only that, you may lose the case because a client, it may signal buyer's remorse. Person might say, wait a second, is this guy that unprofessional and now I have to go back? He's got to come back to me for something? So I think there's a very, very strong reason to have something like this checklist. And as Steve pointed out in the first segment, know your different carriers and what those requirements are. If you have multiple carriers, you can write.
And if you have support staff, this would be excellent to give your admin
KOPs, we call them.
Exactly. Taking care of business,
Yeah.
let them do this. This is a 14-point checklist. And when I think about this, I'm going, well, I knew that. I was just thinking about right now what he's talking about. I knew that. And then I was like, whoop, I forgot about that though. And that one, doggone, I forgot about that question, the lifestyle questionnaire.
Yeah.
So even though I've been in the business a long time, I don't want to depend on my ever-changing memory. So this form checklist tool is huge, and again, you can order it at 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, or write us at thebiz@brokersalliance.com, and we'll send you everything that Tom has. This is an excellent tool. So once you go through this checklist, Raul, now I'm heading for the point of sale. I'm like, whew, it's 4 shows later, and I'm finally getting to the close. Wow, I didn't think it was. We had to really engineer this. So talk a little bit about, now that I'm in the point of sale and I'm talking specifically about physicians, specific documentation, scripting. They answered all the yes and no questions, right? I mean, I love the word he says, well, now I'm going to have to ask you some questions. The old day used to be, just stop me if any of these are relevant. Do you remember those days?
Exactly.
I don't even know that's compliant anymore, where you just go, I hear this, and he's going, nothing. And then I love it when in the old days we used to go, and now the following drugs. Have you ever taken the following drugs? And then you'd look at our age group in the 60s and 70s and go, well,
how often?
how often, and which one did I not try?
Yeah.
And then of course, what's really cool is that was all right because the underwriters that were underwriting you were in the same generation. So
Sure.
not that I'm not trying to make any negative aspersions.
Sure.
But when I'm going through all this, I know I have APS to deal with. I know I have MIB, and the one that you said is the killer, the personal phone interview. Oh my goodness, how many times have we lost it there? Especially, by the way, on financial suitability.
Yes.
Because we wrote out this doc. He calls a client. The client says, "Net worth what?" We were doing funny math on the page.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is all part of the close. And you know what? I am looking at any kind of form letters that the carriers, you use this heavily. This is one of your 4th bullets. Getting cover letters that, a lot of this stuff's already written. You're trying to pontificate, write this in an email when a company already has this compliant and ready to go.
Yes. Well, what I meant by cover letter there is, now this is, you mentioned in the beginning about a lost art of field underwriting. If you think of your underwriter as your partner, you really want to work with them. The more information you give them, the more likely you're going to get that case issued as applied for, which is what you want. So we used to be trained on writing a cover letter. If, in speaking with the client, I find out that, okay, and we talked about this off camera, but companies are becoming a lot different in terms of the way they look at a client. A lot of them look at the client as a total person. So if I've been taking hypertension medication and I've been very diligent about it, I've been good about it, I'm getting better.
Right.
A cover letter can really help the underwriter see that, because simply checking the box or putting down the APS information doesn't disclose that. So You are the advocate for your client. If in the course of the conversation, a lot of positive lifestyle, maintenance of health conditions comes out, a cover letter can really help the underwriter lean toward a more favorable presentation, because
it's managed.
Exactly,
It's managed.
exactly.
It's controlled.
But the point is, sitting down and taking the time to put that short letter. It doesn't have to be a long novel. Simply an outline of here's what the insurance is for. Here's what I found in speaking with the client in terms of how well he or she is managing this condition, which is fully disclosed. You earn an awful lot of credibility with your underwriter. And here's the other benefit of that for us as salespeople. When you need that underwriter who's sitting on the fence between a preferred or a preferred plus, a lot of times that cover letter can make the difference. And it makes your client a lot happier and get referrals and more business for you.
I think that's a huge point, because a lot of times we think, well, we'll just manage the lifestyle credits and hope that the difference between the preferred and standard will push it more over the edge. But I think writing a letter saying, yes, he's on lisinopril, but he's been on it for 5 years. He's been coming under the 120 over 80 numbers for 4 straight years now.
There you go.
And then he says, and if you need that extra information, it's in the APS. Just saying, here's a heads up. I've noticed that a lot of people, and we went to this too, hugely, executive summaries, so that we have a summary of all the APS information. So I'm sitting in front of so I can know up front, and we usually can generally, now this is a little plug for us now, but we usually can generally package this case pretty much way up front by using the executive summary. We already collect all the information, and then we say, here's what we heard, here's what we think those numbers are going to be. So that when you go out on your client's interview, you pretty much know that is pretty much what you're going to get.
Exactly.
Now talk a little bit about, when you talk about doing this interview for the point of sale. I thought we were over, but you say in your script here, I'm reading this, it says post sale, not over yet.
Yes, this is often the part of the sales process that we want to walk away from as salespeople. We think our job is done. I got the application, I got the check. Now I got to turn it over to my internal partners, as I like to call them, the insurance company. Well, no, because now you've got to look inward. You really want to be sure that you've given all the information needed to help new business, underwriting, all those people who are now going to handle your case. But don't forget your client. For instance, many of us work with very busy people. They're getting a lot of information, and as much as we may not want to admit it, you're out of their mind now. Okay, I've done this, I took care of my insurance, now I'm moving on. But time passes. You want to keep a client informed. You don't want to suddenly pop up 2 months later and say, hey, Steve, guess what? I've got your policy ready to issue. So keeping in touch with the client, letting them know that there's going to be some follow-on calls or contacts by the insurance company, maybe just to verify or to complete some information.
Yeah, I think that's huge, to keep in contact by the time you take the app and by the time you're delivering the policy, because clients have insurance dementia. Right? Like, why did we talk about this? I got to talk about it all over. Who are you again?
Yeah.
All that. I think nice, good touch, and it's a quick email. Hey, just letting you know, we're in the middle of this. We're still waiting on this APS from your doctor. A lot of times, the client will get on the phone and say, "Hey, doc, I'm trying to get this done for my finance. Push it out."
Sure.
Right. So it's a good encouragement. But I want to know, is the sale process over yet?
No.
No,
it is not.
I'm in pain.
Because think about it. We don't get paid until the policy is issued. So now you have the delivery meeting and keep in mind now, the client can express buyer's remorse. They have the 10-day free look. If anything goes...
Certain states in the southern panhandle have 30 days.
Yes, 30 days free look. So you really want to cross your T's and dot your I's. Now here's what I mean by that. If the case is issued as applied for, it's great. Steve, I got great news. Let's get together. I want to deliver this. Because some time may have passed. You may have to revisit with the client why the purchase was made in the first place. One of the worst things that can happen is buyer's remorse. Now that I think about it, And so, as I mentioned earlier, can come back one of 3 ways. Issued as applied for, with a rating, or declined. Now, the most difficult one is usually managing a policy that's been rated. So what I would suggest there, and I have an article I can send out to everyone, is, and it was written by an underwriter, how to place a rated case. What you want to do is explain.
That's scary by itself. That an underwriter, how creative could that letter be? I mean, think about that.
Yeah. But again, we're all on the same side. I know there seems to be this.
I know you keep saying that. I know you keep saying that, but a lot of people think that underwriters are the sales prevention department.
Oh,
So-
I know, but you know what? You can manage that. And again, I think being selfish, I want to get paid for all the work I'm doing. If you think about everything that's taken me, we talked about prospecting, referrals, you know, all those things, how much work involved in just getting in front of you and getting you to go with me.
Even more on a rated case.
Exactly. So, you know, those of us who sell investments or annuities, we haven't made because we don't have underwriting issues. But the fact of the matter is, in our business, we have underwriting. So a couple quick bullets on the road, and maybe be able to get that premium reduced.
Right.
Or the third option is if it's a situation that's not going to improve, many times clients react emotionally. Oh, I don't want it. Forget it. Cancel it. But you may want to pull them back to reality and say, well, you know, Steve, I really don't think you're going to get a better deal elsewhere. So you may want to consider this as a best offer. And then, of course, finally, if it's declined, well, you may want to say, well, let's look at it again down in the future.
Yeah, when I think about how we can mitigate declines, postpones, heavily rated cases now in our technology today, we can really make adjustments and pivot on the sale. Well, Tom, I appreciate you being on our show again. Underwriting is part of the sales process. I'm sorry, that was news to me.
A mind blower.
It is. You can call us and ask for any of this information. We'll send it out to you free at 1-800-290-7226, or just write us, thebiz@brokersalliance.com, and we'll send you everything that Tommy puts out. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get into the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse and Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. You can contact Brokers Alliance at brokersalliance.com or 1-800-290-7226, extension 147.